All right, team, here we go. Welcome back to the Strong Life Podcast. Jeremy Hartman is our guest today. Jeremy, you've been recommended in like legendary status by so many people. My bro, Jesse Ackman, always hyping you up. Mark Garrett, hyping you up. Okay. The
Yep.
Indiana Strength and Conditioning. I heard that there were full-time high school strength coaches in Indiana in like the mid 80s. Is that correct? Do you know the
Yeah,
history?
yeah. Kevin Vanderbush over at Ben Davis High School. He's one of the first full-time strength conditioning coaches. He was kind of the guy that really kind of brought to light and got it started, and was the one that everybody started going to see because his programs were just killing it, winning state titles left and right. And then he just provided a
Granddaddy.
lot of mentorship for a lot of people.
Yep. And I think he's one of the founders of the NHSSCA, I think.
Yep.
So you don't really post too much on social. So, when people are mentioning you, what I know a lot about is that you're helping a lot of people win titles, national titles, maybe more in powerlifting. So, and you're full time at a high school, right?
Yeah. So I currently teach phys ed during the day, and then I have my gym kind of like yours, run in the evenings every single night, man. That thing doesn't stop.
That's so are you the same way like our buddy Mark Garrett? Physical education is strength and conditioning. Is that what you're doing or no?
Yeah. So what I used to do, I was a high school strength coach where I was teaching all day, every day. Mark and I were running through 700 to 800 athletes from before school, during school. We had 40 to mostly 70 to 80 kids in a class.
Crazy.
Then you had an hour or two after school as well for the kids that, if they weren't in class or they were doing extra workouts. So
Yep.
yeah, I was doing that complete full time. And then just started really getting the strength team together, and had a lot of opportunities, for the private sector. And I was like Mark, we were just completely dedicated to our school, what we were doing. Got to one of the top schools in the state of Indiana. I was at Center Grove High School, where we were the top performing school from football to track and field, just killing everything. And I had a lot of privates, a lot of people that were wanting to come see me, but I said no for a long time. And then all of a sudden I started getting, some wrestlers, some college athletes, some NFL people. And, that just kind of took over my evening. So I kind of switched over into that now.
Okay. So you're at a different high school now where you're not doing strength and conditioning during the day, or you still are?
Yeah, so I'm doing phys ed and health during the school day, and then I have my whole online business now, which took off. I have
Yep.
my in-person training. We're flying out for powerlifting. I got seminars left and right, so it was just kind of a natural progression that kind of took over.
Why did you leave the one school where you were strength coach by day? Because it seems like you're one of those guys like myself where we love to coach. So I'm shocked that you went to a school where, so is your regular phys ed day like volleyball, tennis, things like that?
Yeah, but I make them work harder than that. I'm not your typical, phys ed teacher.
We're probably the
Yeah,
same. Tell
go
me a
ahead.
little bit about that. Like, what's the physical education look like? Because I've been posting on Instagram a lot about kind of the how public schools just kind of breaking my heart, letting me down. You try to make something happen, and it's like you need 10 people to vote it in. It gets approved 3 years later. How are you making it awesome?
Yeah, Zach, from your early speakings when you were a phys ed teacher with the stuff you went through and why you went private, it's the same struggles you see today, unfortunately. So what I do is I make it a very fun but very intensive day. I make it to where the kids don't realize how hard they're working. So that's how you kind of get around that stuff.
Trick
Is
them.
yeah, you trick them into competition mode. You challenge them. You do stuff like that during the regular day, and that's how you're able to get through that. If not, it just wouldn't work, and you wouldn't be good in your community. The parents would be all over you, kids, everyone else. So you just trick them into they don't realize how hard they're working to the very end, man.
So give an example of, because school started for you guys already.
Yeah,
It's mid-August. Why does Indiana start so early?
they start beginning of August, man.
Like Florida schools.
Yeah. They start early on. They Zach, they try these balanced schedules where, more time during Christmas and winter
Oh yeah.
breaks and spring breaks, then less time in the summer. It's one of those things where they got studies for this. We're going to try this. We're going to try this. And that's the way it kind of happened after time.
That's pretty cool. So what is like, are you team teaching with physical education, large classes, or are you take your kids and do your own thing? Because what's ironic in the physical education world is a lot of phys ed teachers are kind of lazy and they're clock punchers.
Yeah.
So guys like you and I kind of buck the system, and people they don't like us, or they just hand everything off to us. So how's it look for you?
A little bit of both, Zach. I get a little bit of everything handed off to me. But you are right. People look at it, they don't like highly successful people. And I don't care if I'm teaching strength conditioning classes, phys ed, or even health class I've had to teach in the past. Like it's 110% for me. I'm one of the few anomalies out there. And if you look at all my principals that I've had throughout the years, they're just funny when they come see me. Like, I've never seen a class, I've never seen a teacher. They're like, this is just amazing out of this world. And you'll hear from any level that I've taught at or been a part of, or any subject I've had to teach.
So give me like today you're teaching. So what did a warm up and are you guys with block scheduling? Are you 45-minute classes?
Yeah, we're typical regular phys ed, about 45-minute class with everything. So
Okay. What did the warm up look like today for one of your classes?
yeah, I run it like a military man. You come in, you sit down quietly. I take attendance and stuff like a regular teacher. I tell you about, the goal for the day, what we got going on. We do dynamic warm up. I teach a kid about running form. Well, they might not understand at this level, the
Right.
importance of what I teach them about running form, basic fundamental locomotor skills for them, A skips, B skips. We kind of get a little bit into it. And obviously you're dealing with the regular population kids. You're not dealing with
Yeah.
athletes and everything. So we go right into that. I have everything set up, organized. We go right into our practice for the day, go right into a skill competition for the day. We end on some challenging, physical activities to kind of end the day. I do a recap. Hey, what did we do today? What did we learn? If I am doing some phys ed stuff, hey, what were we actually working today? What muscle wise? Who can tell me that? And
Nice.
I cap them off. I mean, we take them right to the last minute. Teachers pick them up. Boom, next group in.
So what you're at a high school right now?
Yeah.
So what about push-ups, squat jumps, lunge jumps? Are you doing that during the calisthenics?
Not some of that stuff. I do a lot more. Maybe some more gymnastic stuff that I'll put in during that time. Some
Oh, like
rolls, and some
what?
stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? What
Well,
do you guys have?
you and I were
Um,
big fans of Ethan Reeve. His
yes.
gymnastic stuff that came through. You and I mean, I remember reading that from you. And honestly, Zach, that was one of the reasons I contacted Ethan, was reading about your guys' experience.
Oh, he's
And
the best.
yeah, I took all my kids through he sent me a whole list of stuff to do. And I put that with my strength conditioning classes. I put that with my
Yeah.
ed. I took him in the wrestling room, made him do it. And kids are like, what the heck is this going on?
Yeah, it's and he gets into that. What's interesting is even when he mentions strength and conditioning, he says to people, "Hey, you're a teacher. You have to teach them how to do these exercises." One thing I just posted a video on push-ups and how we're coming up on our first football scrimmage this week. And what I'm saying now to kids is like, if you could do 10 push-ups, you're ahead of like 70% of the competition, maybe even more,
Yep.
which is crazy. So, what are you doing, or how will you progress the phys ed classes into doing push-ups and calisthenics to get them strong? How is that going to start happening?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you and I got our bands from Dick Hartzell, the original
Yes.
stretch man back in the day. I learned a lot of his stuff. Louis Simmons, when I worked out with Louis and Westside Barbell for a long period of time, he was the one that introduced me. And luckily, being from Cleveland, Ohio, his Youngstown band gym was 45 minutes away.
Oh, you
And
trained there?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'd
Oh
probably
my
train
God.
there. Yeah, well, Dick Hartzell, I just called him up. I had some stuff going on, personal problems just with my lower back and stuff from competitive lifting.
Yeah.
And I saw what he fixed me, number one, better than any chiropractor or physical therapist could. And then number two, I saw all the athletes that were coming in, and I just asked them to stay around. My first day with them, I spent about 6 hours with him. So
It's so funny that him and Louis, that's how they operated. So I'm not sure how long ago that was. Was that before 2010?
oh yeah, it was early 2000s, man, right when I was in college. Yeah,
Yeah.
2003 and 4. Yeah.
His whole gym was like pipes against the wall,
Yes.
bands connected. Everybody was jumping, sprinting with bands.
Yep.
And man, what about Dave Schmitz? Is he from Indiana? You remember Dave Schmitz, the band man?
A little bit with Dave Schmidt. Since I was from Ohio and going to college in Ohio, Dick Hartzell was the man that
And where was Dave from? Wisconsin? He was,
uh I forget. I knew a little bit of him, but I
yeah,
gravitated towards Dick Hartzell because he was like, the original guy with all this stuff.
right. And they
And
would
then
spend him and Louis would just, like brain dump all their information to you. And
yeah,
how old are you, Jeremy? Because you look young, but you're talking like you're my age with your experiences.
yeah. No, I just turned 40, man.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So I'm 47. So usually people that are even your age don't even know who Dick Hartzell
No.
is. But there are old videos of him, but his original videos were on the West Side VHS tapes.
Yep.
So
In the
What you
original West Side Barbell, yeah.
so good, dude. And I still utilize his videos and training methods, like you said. So your private facility you mentioned, when I see some photos or videos, it looks like you're in your garage. Do you have a warehouse, or what's your
No.
private facility?
You know what? I was renting space for a little bit and I got sick of it. And everybody followed me over to my private facility. Like I don't have neighbors around me too far. And I just wanted to open up over there. And yeah, I train everybody out there. It gets me away from everybody else.
So you're in
I'm
your
very
own
good.
house, or
Yeah, do right out of my garage.
and
Yeah,
because I guess you're on and it's a one car garage, it looks like.
maybe one and a half.
Nice. Can we get a video tour? Can you text it to me? I could post it on or you post it on your Instagram, and I'll post it on my
Yeah.
blog.
Yeah. I mean,
Beautiful.
I kept it simple, man. I wanted people in there where I could coach. I didn't want, not that I'm against large groups. You know, Mark Garrett and I, we've had 70, 80 kids in there at times that we've had to coach, but with the athletes and the people I was getting who were very serious about what they wanted to do, I wanted to keep them in smaller groups and coach the heck out of them and
Oh
build
yeah.
national and world champions out of my gym.
Which is I don't know the details. What's the highest stage somebody you've coached has been on? They've competed in the Arnold, so that's a world
Um,
stage.
yeah, we've been on the IPF world stage. I've had, what got me really good and going was I had three of my kids from my local high school. I'm in a farm school, and they were just kids who were volleyball players, tennis players that just didn't even know how
Amazing.
much a bar weighed in. And part of when I came to this high school at first was to show everybody you can win with these kids. You just got to put the effort into them. And I took these kids who were just showing up more, Zach. They were coming in on optional Saturdays, you know, with the
Yes.
strength conditioning classes. They were staying extra after with me. Started taking them some smaller meets, and I told them, hey, if we're going to do this, it's 100%. Now they didn't know what that meant, you know.
No doubt.
And yeah, they just kept showing up, and I started taking them in. We started bringing home some medals, and we started winning some national titles in USAPL. And then all of a sudden, I had one world team member, and then two, and then all of a sudden, one year, I was the only coach ever in USA Powerlifting to have three world team members on the US World Powerlifting team, and then they also made the bench press world team as well.
So you're like our modern day Marty Gallagher. you
Just
know?
Yeah, I'm just trying. You and I had good coaches growing up, Zach, and who went above and beyond for us, and that's what I spent the rest of my life paying back for. And these kids, like, I showed them they could be on there. You know, they could be the highest. And we've actually had several IPF world champions out of there. Second place finish in the IPF worlds. We've had 9 IPF world records. We've had over, geez, at this count, 60 or 70 U.S. American records.
And how many of those like athletes now are you training online versus in person?
Probably the proudest thing I have right now is after 10 years, when I first started this school, I still have several of those kids that are still in the area that still train with me. They still, after 10 years. Yeah.
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
want to like back it up a second. I know we only have 10 minutes for your next class. When the kids would come in when you were at the other school and you had the phys ed classes that were strength and conditioning,
Yeah.
was there some sort of a progression? Because I see Mark does the weightlifting. Were you doing weightlifting or more powerlifting?
No, I mean, it was all athlete based training. I mean, the only time like I would deadlift was I kind of saved that for like an after school, you
Oh,
know,
nice.
so, but we hit our cleans, our squats. Mark's more on the Olympic side, which I still taught
Yes.
my kids that. I think was very important. More of my kids when they were going to like Purdue, you know, Indiana University, some of the schools where I knew they were going to be introduced, I would hammer them a little bit more if they got to that level. University of Indianapolis, Steve Barrick, one of the best college strength coaches he's not out there, but Mark, Jesse, everybody knows him real well. He's the best D2 strength coach in the nation. He could be at Ohio State or Indiana if he
I've
wanted.
heard of him.
Yeah. So
I
we
think
said,
Jesse mentioned him.
oh yeah, yeah.
Of
So if we
course.
send kids over there, I make sure that they're ready to go. But I want my kids to have an understanding of Olympic lifts before they go in. Obviously, they'll all squat, bench, you know, deadlift. I'll put a little more deadlift emphasis on Friday after school. That's kind of was my, you know, little hook and bait for the kids to come in extra with everything too. Like,
Yes.
this is our deadlift day. It's the end of the week. But yeah, I did a lot of, you know, single leg unilateral motion, a lot of plyometrics once the kids, because they don't know how to jump and land at this point.
Right.
You know, sprint work. Wednesdays at the high school for my strength conditioning classes, we started with Ethan Reeves. We would take him in the wrestling room. We'd line them all up, and it was nothing but forward roll, backwards roll. His whole routine that he sent me, Zach, that you and I know, that was their warm up before we'd even go in the weight room.
That stuff's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like people dismiss it. And now, like you try, when you introduce kids to forward roll, you're going to have a lot of kids that are going to start with a log roll,
Yes.
right? Because
You don't
it's,
even know.
it's such a challenge to them. What so what barbell lifts were you introducing when you did the phys ed, by the way, Jeremy? Was it a every other day class when they were strength and conditioning, or Monday through Friday and then one marking period health? How did that work?
Yeah, so mine was all strength conditioning classes. So we'd have it like a Monday, Tuesday normal PE schedule, 45-minute classes. Wednesday and Thursday was known as a block schedule. So I'd actually have them for like an hour and a half.
Oh, nice. I
But
want
they
to
would only
hear
have
about
like,
that.
yeah. So I'd
Oh,
have you like, if you came in, I'd have you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday was your hour and a half. Thursday, you'd be off.
yes.
Friday, you'd come back in.
Because I'm working on that at my school, and we have block that's an hour and 20 minutes. And so I have one phys ed class, but I want that to become some sort of an advanced fitness elective,
Yeah.
aka strength and conditioning. So trying to map that out. So what about the barbell lifts in those large groups? What movements did you favor? Squat, front squat, or and what exercises were you like, I'm not doing that with 60 to 70 kids in a group?
Yeah. So what I did, Zach, is I grouped it up. It's simple progressions. You know, Mark and I do a great job with this. When they come in as in the summer, so they're coming in as ninth grade athletes. We would all start with kind of like how Mark Berg or Coach Bergner,
Oh yeah.
very good Olympic lifting coach, one of the founding strength conditioning coaches of all time.
He was a phys ed teacher
Yep.
running strength and conditioning like a
Yes.
weightlifting hall. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
Is out in California. It's like Chula Vista, or I forget where
Yeah. It's
that school is.
awesome.
Yeah, but I used to call him up and he gave me his whole warm ups with everything. He taught me about progressions. And
Yes.
then so the kids in the summer, they were working with PVC pipes, learning movements. I would start them with RDLs,
Okay.
learning how we actually had to pull out all the bleachers, and those were my boxes, Zach.
Oh
So we would learn
yeah.
about sitting back into your squat, opening up
Hmm.
your knees, opening up your hips, learning to actually hip hinge a little bit on there. So when you talk about 89th graders show up, you're not gonna have that many boxes. So we pull out all the bottom bleachers. They were mostly about parallel or below. And we would teach them from there with PVC pipes, movement based. I loved RDLs because the kids don't know how to straighten their back up. They don't know what chest out, shoulders back means.
Right.
They don't
That's a
know about
tough one.
neutral spine. Yeah. So it was basically, I like the back squat first. From there, we did some punch out squats, some kettlebell squats, goblet squats, stuff like that. But it was always with a box. So that way I could control the height. I could
Nice.
control their form. RDLs were next. Definitely front squats, but again, a lot of them couldn't even get their wrists. You've seen it, where we're at.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I did lunges with it. We did step ups on there. Anything I could throw at them that was basic, fundamental
I
training
love
for
it.
the kids.
Brilliance with the basics. What's interesting today versus 2000, or even like once like 2012 came around, the influx or the abundance of private strength coaches started kind of exploding. And
Mhm.
now there's like, I live in a town that's less than 2 square miles. You could ride your bike everywhere. But there's multiple gyms in this town. There's a
Yeah.
CrossFit, there was another fitness place. So are you the kids that sign up for strength and conditioning as an elective, or back then,
Yeah.
were they also training with a private coach? And then they're like, I did this yesterday. Did you have any of that?
Yeah, so you're always going to have parents and people that do that.
Yes,
I'm one of the private coaches now, so I see
that's
that.
right.
Yeah, so you're always going to have the parents that they're seeking out for extra stuff, and unfortunately, a majority of the coaches out there, not trying to bash them, but with several of the gyms, the CrossFit gyms, everything like that, it was just not good. And I had a lot more kids getting injured outside of that. But again, parents are paying for what they think is the best out there. So
Right.
I had several in the beginning, and Mark and I and Steve Barrick, we all did. But as we grew our program and our system, they saw the production that was coming up. So I had less and less. But you're still going to deal with that no matter
No
what.
doubt. You're right.
Yeah.
The kids that I'm training now, we haven't even had a scrimmage yet, that have knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain. They all train with a private coach. So you know what I say to them? I'm like, fire your coach. I
Yeah.
don't even care. I just go right for the throat.
Yeah. Zach, you like this story. I was at Fort Wayne Carroll High School, my first job out of college, full-time high school strength coach, top to bottom. This school had never won a state title, just nothing, never by accident or anything. And I took a lot of heat from baseball because we were going against a lot with what famous private coaches on the internet wrote about.
Right. Arm care, core strength.
We're dealing with high school kids. My kids couldn't even
Hmm.
bench a bar, couldn't even do a
Yeah.
push up, like you said in your recent article. If they could just do one push up, I can't believe that. But after it was our third year, and I had a baseball coach that was dedicated, Coach Ginder. He was awesome. We ended up, and again, we're a public school going against private schools who, I don't care what you say, they recruit and get the best. But after 3 years of that, we actually won our first state title in the history of this school in baseball, and we only had 2 kids injured. Those were the only 2 kids that were training with a private coach. And during our parent meeting, my baseball coach stood up and he pointed those out to the entire, like, he embarrassed, like, I don't say embarrass them. He just called out that we only had 2 kids injured. And if Coach Hartman isn't doing what he's doing, he goes, I've been here for, I forget, he was like 15 years there. And after winning that, dominating it, and only having 2 kids injured that were training with a private coach that were doing sports specific stuff, that's what really sold my program. That coach standing up and saying that.
That's interesting. I had the similar experience with baseball where the coach was very against it at first.
Yep.
Then I saw them train and I was like, you got to let me help you. He's like,
Yes.
when? I'm like, right now.
Yeah.
And his team went on to win a group state title. And then last year we got a new coach who didn't push the kids to train, let them do their own thing. And it was the same kids who won the group state title, but they stopped training together. They're all going to their individual coach, and they did not qualify for states, or they lost first round. And I'm not saying it's because of me, but
Yeah.
all of that special treatment and division played a negative role. Let's close out with this because you got a class.
We got time, man. We'll keep going.
Oh,
We
cool.
got 15 minutes. Let's do that.
With training at your house and just the lifters online and this long track record of success, what are like 3 things that you feel kind of a staple in your program, whether it's your philosophy, whether it's the program design model or the exercise selection that's helping your athletes get strong and durable, whether they're powerlifters or athletes utilizing the strength training methods. And I think a big issue I'm seeing is athletes are not durable. They might be like explosive or fast, but then they're getting beat up from practice, or like our football players are getting like hamstring strains from install, which is like, hey, I haven't seen you for over half a year. Your program's not working. So why do you think, what's the cornerstone of what you're doing? Why does it work?
Cornerstone of mine is my philosophy. Again, I'm going back to what you and I did, and Mark and everybody else. I can't tell you how many coaches I reached out to. I would reach out to Louis Simmons. I would go down there and train when I was competitive lifting, but I also got introduced to athletic training down there too. I went to Dick Hartzell about his whole band stuff to get rehab for myself. And I quickly learned how important it was in athletics with what he was doing. I reached out to Ethan Reeves. Ethan and I talked about him and you all having that wrestling background, that mentality. That was huge. Ethan shared with me a lot about athletic training. Buddy Morris, since he was getting involved with Elite FTS, and I was involved with Dave Tate and all that, I reached out to Buddy. I kept reaching out to all these guys, and I would travel. Too many people don't just go travel and spend the day. I went from 1 hour with Dick Hartzell to 6 hours. The first time I went down with Louis, he spent time with me afterwards. So I think it was learning all these different philosophies from all these different strength coaches. Steve Barrick at the University of Indianapolis, Mark Garrett. I wanted to learn more about Olympic weightlifting. So those were the guys that I went to because they were right in my backyard. Lee Taft is another big guy. I look for speed development. Yeah. So Lee lived about 15 minutes from me. So I would constantly bug him about his speed training, and I would go to his garage. Yeah.
I forgot that Indiana was this hotbed. Crazy quick story is where I have this vacation home in upstate New York. Lee was based out of there.
Yep.
So I came and did like a guest presentation at one of his like mentorship programs. There was coaches from all around America. One coach was from, I think, the Caribbean. But
Nice.
what about Bill Hartman? Are you related to Bill Hartman?
No relation.
So funny. Well, you're both crazy smart.
Yeah, I went up and saw him and Mike a little bit when I first moved up here because they have the iFast gym and stuff.
Yes.
Again, I picked some stuff up from those guys as well too. It was great to get to know them and
Yeah.
a different philosophy of training, but it was good to just see their side of stuff too.
Correct. So you're, I think our generation, I hate to say this, like we traveled, we had skin in the game. And I really am struggling with like strength coaches today who could insist only I pick up stuff from Instagram and YouTube without a doubt, but nothing beat my times of like going in and training. So when you were at Westside Barbell and powerlifting, what years were those?
Yeah, I got introduced, after I was doing some fighting after wrestling. And the guy in there, he was in the West Side documentary, Marcus Marinelli, trained Strong Style Gym in Independence,
Yes.
Ohio. He has Stipe Miocic. So Marcus got me invited to go down to Louis. I was working very hard, and I asked Marcus several times. And after he saw that I was really dedicated, he called up Louis for me. That's how I got invited. And then I just came down there, and Louis helped me a little bit, but until he saw that I was very dedicated, I came down like my fall breaks during college, my Christmas
Right.
breaks. I never took a spring break because I was always training.
Uh-huh.
After several times of going down there and Louis seeing that I was getting stronger, that I was very dedicated, then he spent a little more time with me.
You earned his respect. You know, I have the original dual landmines, the grappler.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which he invented that to train Kevin Randleman on.
Yeah.
Who was, MMA fighter and legend in Ohio State wrestling.
Yep.
So who would help you when you would go to West Side with training? Was it Marcus? Who was helping you outside of Louis? Because
No,
everybody was a
Marcus.
coach there, right?
Yeah, Marcus just got me invited.
Mm-hmm.
But I would just go down there. I mean, Louis would have me come in and watch some of the other guys, Chuck Vogelpohl, Mike Ruggiero,
Yes.
some of the big top guys at that time first, and then I would lift in the second group after them. So I'd change all their weights, hold the boards for board presses. Then when they were done, I got done to training, and then so those guys were there. But then Vic Voinovich, who again was my wrestling coach, he got introduced to Louis Simmons through another fighter, who was Dan Bobish, NCAA champion.
Oh, I remember Dan. And what's
Oh
your
yeah,
wrestling coach name? Vic?
Vic Voinovich, yeah,
How do I spell his last name?
VOINOVICH.
Where is he from? Was he like a Russian? Vic
No,
Voinovich?
he's Cleveland guy. He's state champ, wrestled at Edinburgh for a little bit, state champ in Ohio. I got introduced to him.
Edinburgh.
Yeah, I got introduced to him through another wrestling coach. And Vic started showing me, he was the first guy to really show me about sumo deadlifts, not just the power lifts, but really took my weight training to a whole nother level.
Yeah. What do you prefer when coaching teenage and college athletes? Do you prefer the sumo or the conventional, or do you assess them with like arthropometrics before you tell them which deadlift is best for them?
Yeah, no, I introduced them to both, Zach. I think we're training athletes. I think they need to be, we don't have to throw a million exercises, but I want my athletes to be well-rounded. I want pull-ups and chin-ups. I want wide grip and close grip. I want sumo and
Yes.
conventional. I want Olympic squats and also a powerlifting back squat where you're sitting back into your hips. I
Right.
want some Olympic lifts, but I also want to be able to front squat so they can clean a little bit. So I keep it simple, but my athletes are well-rounded. It's not just they only pull this way. It was the same thing with my training. When I learned from Vince Anello, when I learned from all
Oh,
these
wow.
competitive lifters. Oh yeah, that's old school, man. 1970.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Vince was the one. And Louis told me, you got to be able to strong in both directions on. And it very helped me out because my sumo, which I was not very good at, if I could put 10 to 15 pounds my off season on that, I had a huge correlation to my conventional when I would actually start meet prepping with that. So I just learned about that. And I learned my athletes, like if they're a serious weakness, it's like, you got to build that up, man.
Yeah.
Weak things break. I know that saying from Louis for I don't know how long now.
Yeah. I look at it like I want them to be confident in a position that they emotionally feel awkward in, just because I look at when injuries happen in sports. I love this. What about overhead pressing is sometimes a like taboo exercise. Are you implementing overhead work with your athletes? What do you think of it?
Yeah. Funny story on that, since you and I dealt with the baseball thing,
Yeah.
my coach was 100% against that. It wasn't what, Eric Cressy was writing about. It was terrible. I was killing my athletes.
You're the devil.
Yeah. My kids were so weak. They needed and Jesse Ackerman, I talk about this. They needed a fundamental base level of strength. They couldn't even overhead press a bar and I'm going to hurt them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They
you're
just
right.
needed that. So no, I overpress my athletes. Obviously, my pitchers, my volleyball players, people that are throwing a lot. I will watch their pressing movements. All my athletes do a ton of back work. We do back work every single day, from rows to pull-ups. Every day you come in here, they know they're going to do something for their back.
Right.
I think it's the real reason why we don't have a lot of shoulder problems in here. I look at it in the off season. If I have my volleyball players or pitchers, for example, not throwing a lot of volume, then I will put some extra overhead or shoulder work.
Yes.
When they
Love
start
it.
throwing and hitting more, then we'll obviously concentrate more on the real delts, traps, rhomboids, everything in the back area.
Yeah, I love it. Now we're, I want to talk about you're in your garage. We're going to say that's a small space. And you're in a cold weather state. Are you implementing sleds and carries even for the power lifters for just keeping up their GPP?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when we get done with meat training and stuff like that. We go back to athletic movements. There's a couple days we'll get out of the garage. I got a friend that's got a gym down the road, a little hardcore place. So we'll go do some stuff over there. But yeah, sled work a lot. I can't, if you want to talk about young kids too, a lot with that. My athletes, my competitive lifters, like you said, yeah, a lot of strongman carries, sled work. I used to do a lot of that stuff with Louis, a lot of log clean and pressing. Actually, Zach, that was one of the few things I was stuck around a 490 bench press. And I actually worked with a guy, Gabe Daniels, who has had me doing a lot more strongman.
Mhm.
And I couldn't figure it out. But the log clean and press, after about 2 or 3 months of that, man, did that stabilize my shoulders. Man, did that blow up my triceps, my upper body. That was the first thing that brought me over to my first 500-pound bench press in powerlifting.
Dang, I should have. We did today. We finished with our intern Olympics. I had 3 interns, and
Nice.
they're rough. My other coach gave them all the different challenges. My challenge to them was rising bar, thick bar sumo deadlift.
Nice. I
But
like
I was like, man, we should have done the log clean and press. I've gotten away from a lot of strongman training. My earlier years, I think I was just a little more aggressive. Now I always tell people, I'm like, I catch myself being conservative. And
Yep.
it's like, man, I forget that upper back pump you get when you have to keep cleaning the log
Yeah.
over and over. What's the youngest athlete you're training out of the garage right
Well, I
now?
got a first grader in there. Yeah.
That's
I
great.
mean, he comes over there, but he's around everybody else. Like I train it like the Dynamo Club from Russia. If you come in, it doesn't matter if you're young or older, like everybody's in there to help everybody else during that time. So I've got a first grader in there. I've got my middle school athletes that they look at that and they see some of my lifters like Shelby Miles, or I got a 900-pound drug-free squatter, Jared Martin. He did 844 raw, 915 in a suit. He's around those guys as well. You see Jared over there lifting that, and you see the next guy, my other high school kid squatting 405 barely. So
Yeah. Well, even 405 at a high school. I mean, I know we see these, especially in the Carolinas, Georgia, Texas. Strength and conditioning is a big thing, but at my high school, we barely have kids squatting 405. And I think the main issue is they're not consistent.
yep.
The athletes that stay with me year round, they're the strongest, and they're not dealing with the knee, the back, or relearning an exercise. And so it's very tricky. I'm excited to see, I'll text you later, remind you to do a little video tour of
Yeah.
your garage. What's like a question you probably got to cut out? Do you have a
Yeah, we got
question
time. We're
or
good.
topic that you want to address, Jeremy?
Yeah, Zach, you mentioned about, what's the difference with me. I think number one is just my philosophy, since you and I pulled it from all these different coaches that you and I
Right.
talked to, went and saw, visited, spent days with, went back and saw again and again. And I think the next thing is culture. I think that's the number one. I forget that sometimes because we're in there to train and people forget that it's not talked about much, or if it is, it's just a few sentences, but everybody's in there trying to be the best. I got that from being at Westside with everything. So everybody's trying to do that in there. Everybody's trying to work up hard. So I think that's a big thing, is the philosophy of mine and the culture with everything that I have in there, is that we are always trying to push each other, always trying to be better, always trying to make some type of 1 rep, 5-pound gain, and everybody's fighting for it, which I love.
I've really keen. I mean, I've noticed this for a while, but my private facility has a way different culture than my high school
Yep.
because I'm not the only one instilling the culture. Do the coaches instill the consistency? Do they come in and check in on the kids? And that to me, like, it crushes me emotionally because I'm like, man, this kid went to the trainer today when he could have just came in and done back extensions, pull-ups, ISO holds on lunges. So what was like the factor for you to leave the school where you were doing strength and conditioning by day to be a quote unquote normal phys ed teacher? What
Yeah,
was like a inspiration behind that? That's a tough switch.
I just had more people asking me, and I kept putting them off because I'm very dedicated to what I'm doing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some great coaches. You just mentioned that. Let me tell you this: my swim coach at Franklin Community Schools, he was my biggest person. That guy came in every day. He was a brand new coach. The other coach said, "Hey, Jeremy's got something brand new started here." He showed up all the time. He did attendance. He did all this crazy stuff for me. And we went from not winning a sectional since I think it was 1988, just a sectional, to being second in the state after 4 years of training with us. Now, I'm not like you. I'm not taking credit for that. That man showed up. That man did attendance. He brought his youth kids in to start lifting with me.
That is what's
All his
needed.
high school kids, yeah, in the classes. He was checking on them after school, taking attendance. And, within 4 years later, we were second state. And the only team that beat us was Carmel, who's number one in the nation.
You know what I say? Success is no accident and neither is mediocrity.
Yeah.
So if you're average, if we look at what you do or don't do, the answers are right there. This guy is showing up. It shows the kids that he cares and that it's important.
Yeah.
Whereas I think we're all kind of deal with the same, grass is greener on the other side. Coaches like this coach comes in, this coach doesn't come in. It's definitely a struggle.
Yeah, but to answer your question though, Zach, I
Yeah.
think I just had more and more people asking me about training, private training.
Yep.
Then I had some fighters come in. I had some state champion wrestlers from other schools. I had some more elite level powerlifters coming in, whereas before I was developing them. I never got to work with somebody who's already at a high level. So
They
it's just
wanted to train with you in the garage versus what, online, like just consulting with them
well,
online?
just ask me for help coming in for a seminar. Hey, can I come train with you for the weekend? I got a wrestler, Rich Carlson, right now. We're second in the Olympic trials for Greco-Roman wrestling. He comes in once every 2 months, spends the entire weekend on my couch. He's from Minnesota. So I started getting more people like that just coming in. And the private stuff just took over. It's like, man, I want to work with these people who are just, man, I'm saving my money. Hey, I'm going to sleep on your couch. Hey, I'm going to train all weekend at your place.
I need to go back to my garage. I can't be running this public gym.
Yeah. So that's honestly what took over. These other people just showing up, and man, I'm like, man, these guys are hungry as me, man. These guys are dedicated, man. They're trying to put 5 pounds on a lift. They're coming in from Connecticut. They're
fired up
like when I have seminars. So it just took over.
Damn, this is awesome. I can't wait to see the tour of your garage gym. I want to see the setup, and maybe if you could show us what it looks like outside and just post it to your Instagram or something so I could reshare.
Yeah.
And
man, it ain't nothing famous, man. There's some combo powerlifting racks, some weights, some dumbbells, little outside area.
I love that stuff. That's what the people of the Strong Life podcast love to see. All right, you got anything else for us, Jeremy? I know you got classes going on. What else? Anything else?
No, I just appreciate your career, the stuff you've always posted that I've followed since day one. With your wrestling background, the stuff that you did, I think that's why I gravitated towards reading up on your stuff. It was just, amazing stuff that I wanted to. And you and I are kind of on the same path, and we're just here to help people get better and do even better. So
are you gonna post? You don't post much on social. Are you gonna do that, or you don't care for that stuff?
No, I will. I'll keep posting some more stuff. It's just I'm so dedicated and helping everybody else out that So
you're the best. All right, brother.
Knock on my door. I gotta get running here, man.
You're the best. Talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. We'll see you, Zach. Thank you.
All right, bye, Jeremy. You could close it out because I'm gonna keep going.
All right, man. We'll see you, bud.
All right, buddy.
Bye.
All right. Wow. All right. We're still recording. I wanted to just touch on a couple of things that Jeremy said. So I've actually never spoken with Jeremy, but my friend Mark Garrett, if you look him up on Instagram, Hoosier Barbell, he's in Indiana. It's tremendous what Mark does. Wait till you see the weightlifting, the AKA Olympic lifting that you see. And my bro, Jesse Ackerman, telling me how much he loves Jeremy Hartman. I'm like, all right, I got to chat with this guy. Really interesting to me that he had a full-time strength and conditioning job in a school. And just like Mark said, 70 to 80 kids in a group. I'm usually around 60. I always tend to have like this third group of the day that's smaller. And man, let me tell you, it's so easy to coach 15 to 20 kids versus 60. And I'm going to tell you something interesting that's happening in some of these large groups. Ironically, in football, is that football players will not actually train. They'll be in the group. They'll kind of hide. They'll walk from one squat rack to another, or they'll go to the back of the weight room and come back, not actually even touching a bar. So, as a dad, can you imagine what I would think? Let's say I had no strength and conditioning background, and a coach reached out to me and said, Mr. Evnesh, my concern is your son's on the football team, and when he's in the weight room, he actually doesn't squat or deadlift, or if he does, he never goes past 135. And my concern is, as a coach, the football coach, that he has signed up for a sport where athletes have been severely injured, broken limbs, arms, legs, torn ACLs. Kids have been paralyzed, concussions like crazy. And my concern is he's not putting in the effort to be prepared, and he's a liability. I would sit my son down And I would say, let me tell you something, son. If you cannot put your heart and soul into your preparation, I will pull you from that team. I will not let you step out on that football field with higher chances of breaking an arm, a leg, a neck, because you don't want to work hard and put weight on that bar. And you will go back to that weight room and you will lead that room through your work ethic and intensity. You don't need to be the strongest, but you better put some damn weight on that bar, boy. That's what I would say to my son. We have many kids on the high school football team that won't even do that. Or when it's time for strength and conditioning, they will go to the trainer and get ice or stim or compression. You cannot protect your body trading athletic trainer time for strength and conditioning time. Or they come in and they're like, I need to roll out. I'm like, bro, there's 60 of us here. We already warmed up. If you need to roll out and stretch, that has to be done at home. We don't have the time for it. And right now is not the time to do that. And like I said to Jeremy, the athletes that I work with that are consistently injured or beat up, they're the ones that are consistently inconsistent. And now I want to touch upon culture. At the underground, there's nobody skipping sets. And speaking of the underground, I recorded a podcast that I cannot share in public. It's extremely intense. It's going to be posted inside the Underground Strength Academy, which is undergroundstrengthcoach.com. And so that's the only place I can post it because it's extremely intense. It's for those who really are about that life, so to speak. There's also discount codes on the forum for the Underground Strength Coach certification and the SSPC certification. But the culture in the high school is going to be largely influenced by that sport coach. If the sport coach, like Jeremy was talking about, the swim coach and the baseball coach coming in, checking in, taking attendance, showing up, that team will show up on the regular because the coach is showing to the kids, this is important. This is part of our program. It's an integral part of our program. If the coach comes in once in a blue moon, if the coach comes in and while you're going over training, the coach is in the corner talking with somebody else, that coach is showing, I don't give a shit about what you're doing because he's not even listening to what you're doing. He's talking with another coach. They're just taking up space. That's the unfortunate reality of where we are with a lot of sport coaches. It's always been that way. But I love Jeremy's attitude of how he applies it even to physical education class. Like, listen, we're going to work. I'm going to challenge you. And he said, look, some phys ed colleagues are maybe giving me their students because they're lazy. He doesn't care. His heart is in the right place. And I believe that that is the only place and the only way to coach. You have to have your heart in it. Today, while I was driving to the high school, I was thinking about some of the kids that are disappointing me. And I actually started to cry in my car because I care so much about these kids and I'm almost sometimes lost with how to fix the issue. And I guess it goes back to what Jeremy's saying is, what does the head coach do? What does the assistant coach do? And if I'm looking at who are the most consistent teams with the best mannerisms, the best listeners, those that follow through the most, their coach demonstrates the same. It's going back to the Rogue Warrior book by Dick Marcinko, creator of SEAL Team 6, aka DevGru. Lead from the front. If you do not lead from the front, your kids see that. Your team sees that. Yesterday, I trained with my son, and I let him program the workout. I said, Ethan, here you go, bud. Take the marker, put it up on the whiteboard. I did everything he did. And at age 47, if I could do a bodyweight squat with no warm-up and 4 knee surgeries, why can't the 16-year-old just squat down? It's not that they can't. When they say, I can't, you can't or you don't want to. And you see, as a strength coach, you will deal with these struggles and stressors if you're in the public sector. Listening to Jeremy, I can't wait to see the tour of his private 1.5 car garage out of his house because that is very tempting. I've mentioned it many times. I'm always looking for property. I don't farmland and large land is very hard to find in my area of New Jersey. I'd have to be further south, an hour or an hour plus north to find that. So I'm not going to be moving, but a lot of food for thought. And appreciate you guys listening. Make sure you leave a 5-star review and get on the newsletter. Go to zachstrength.com, get your free training courses, get on the newsletter, respond to any of those newsletters with any questions you have. And if you're serious about being a strength coach, start with the underground strength coach certification. Don't go to the SSPC. That's the strength and sports performance coach. That has a lot of the plyometrics, the med ball training, the speed, the agility, the psychology of where we are as athletes. Say, start with the underground strength coach certification, because that is the ultimate base builder. It's still based on athleticism. Both certifications have business bonuses, seminars that were recorded, and training seminars. Both certifications have bonuses with one of the best guys out there, Matt Wenning, with program design. So you want to get involved with that. And listen to what Jeremy said. Louis Simmons, Dick Hartzell, Steve Barrick, okay? Going and traveling and learning from all these coaches. A lot of coaches don't do that. Tomorrow, I have an entire staff. Giancarlo Regini from G Strength Philly. I just call him G. He's bringing his whole staff. I think he has 3 facilities. He's bringing his whole staff to the underground strength gym to go through a continuing education. So I'm going to train them. I'm going to go over program design methods. They train a lot of adults. I can speak firsthand as a quote unquote older person, how to adjust the warm-ups, how to adjust tempos and sets and reps and rest protocols and overall program design. I'm really going to get into the weeds with them. So, and there might be a possibility of me going to Tennessee to put on a certification. Bryce Beal invited me from Legacy Carbon. He's a partner with Mark Lobliner in that gym. So if you want me to come out to your gym, there's a fee involved per day. You could email me and I could give you a quote on me traveling out. And probably right now, really staying more along the East Coast, because the high school year is starting and my daughter is in tennis. So anybody who's known me for a while, I don't want to miss my kids' events. And it's crazy. In 4 years, I'm going to be an empty nester. My son's going to be a freshman in high school this September. My daughter's going to be a junior. So time is going to be fast. Time is flying way too fast. So thanks to everybody for watching, listening, wherever you are. Review, like, comment, all that stuff. Jeremy Hartman, awesome guy. I will link him up in the information section below. I'm out of here, guys. Have a great day. Peace out.